marketing. So if you're not using offline marketing, let's talk about why that might be. I know some of you are quite reliant actually on online. You like online, you enjoy being on social media, but let's be honest, some of us have been online for a long time and the results aren't yet showing. So I want to talk to you a little bit about offline in the hope that you'll be convinced to dabble in some of the ideas. Now, offline marketing is today, and tomorrow will, of course, be the day that we talk about online, your social media, your email marketing, that kind of cool stuff. So offline marketing is anything that doesn't use an internet connection, anything that doesn't use a telephone, nothing that relates to your website, nothing that relates to you doing a text or a WhatsApp. Offline is offline. Okay, so I want to share with you tonight that if you're not doing enough offline, today's quite a good session. If you have already done days 1 and 2 with me, then you'll know that on day 1 we were talking all about time and budget management, and on day 2 we were talking all about your brand and what you're doing with your brand in terms of how you show up, consistency, personality, tone of voice, even your brand assets. Because when we look at marketing, we're not just looking at marketing in terms of how you're performing, how often you're posting. Marketing can be evaluated and measured by actually looking at the results you're getting. Usually those results are going to relate to sales and inquiries. So let's just make sure we're clear on that. When I'm talking today, when I'm sharing tonight, I am talking about you actually being clear that marketing, in my world, as someone who's done marketing for 29 plus years, usually results in a referral, or it results in someone spending money. Yeah, I spoke about the ka-ching earlier this week. Or it might result in a lead or inquiry. So if I'm referring someone to your business, that's a good sign that marketing is working. If I am signing up, or I'm interested in a discovery call, or I've sent a note to say I want to be signed up to your email, that is a good sign that marketing is working. And of course, the ultimate sign is someone buys from you. Okay, so I want you to be aware that when you're actually looking at how you can improve your branding and marketing, the ultimate goal are one of those 3 things typically. And there could be other things that you might explore as measures of marketing, like website views and how many people have clicked through to your video, how many people are actually watching your videos, how many people are attending your events. All of these things are relevant to how you're showing up, but also what you're doing in terms of your branding and marketing offline. So let me ask the question, if you're watching live now, where are you watching from? And how are you doing offline? How do you think you're doing? I want you to be really honest with me. How do you think you're doing offline? Let me tell you, as someone who has started her business, or started my business back in 2013, I had done a lot of offline campaigns because it was, 29 years in the industry, okay? Most of what I did before the internet became a thing, before social media became a thing, before I was convincing CEOs that I was working with to register for Twitter, which is now x.com, much of what I did was offline. But one thing about me is that I am what I would call an early adopter. Whenever there's an opportunity to learn something new, yes, I'm going to invest. In fact, this year I've invested in 2 courses. I've already completed one, and I graduate later on in the year. And the second course I'll share more about soon. But basically, I'm sharing that to say I know quite a lot about offline, because even when I built my own business, I did a lot of offline work. I did a lot of work with regards to, going out and meeting people, holding meetups, speaking at networking events, printing leaflets. I remember designing my first leaflet using Canva when it first came out, and it was absolutely horrid. I mean, I laugh about it now, but it really was horrid. And so I know quite a bit about offline marketing and thinking outside of the box. And for some of you, I know that you don't want to do online. You don't like emails. You're not really into social media. It's not your cup of tea. And actually, some of my clients do better with offline marketing than online. And that's absolutely fine. I've got clients whose strategy is quite literally events. They do a little bit on social media. They might send a few emails, but their main strategy and their main source of income is actually working on offline events. Offline events where they're meeting people in person. Offline events where they're actually speaking to people And, people are able to smell their samples, taste their cake, try on the wig, and, learn more about their coaching services. These are the ways in which, when you're offline, you can meet real people, you can exhibit, you can be offline, you could do a print advertisement in a physical newspaper, really old school style. You could even do, having like direct mail. It's still a thing. I'm sure many of us still receive direct mail shots from organizations, particularly around the festive period, and also, when there are campaigns going on around elections and things like that. You'll see what I mean by direct mail. There's canvassing, there's campaigns, right? So what you want to be thinking about is what you're doing in your business to elevate your brand using offline. Now, my journey so far has been consulting, coaching, training, which is how I started off, offline training, and then I went on to online training, and some of you will know I now do online training. I'm also an author. I've written my own book, which has been in existence since 2018 and gets better every year. And I also run a social media management agency where we look at websites and email marketing and Facebook ads, and we help people to actually grow their business using digital marketing and exploring tactics that maybe you've not considered that go beyond just video content on Instagram, as an example, right? So I want you to think about your journey so far, and I want you to think about whether or not what you're doing right now is ultimately going to get you where you want to be at the end of the year. Okay, so I've shared a bit about my journey, shared a bit about my expertise. I want you to actually think about how much return on investment you are getting as a result of your offline activities. And could you jot down, maybe in just a few minutes, the types of offline activities that you're doing? Could you actually share, if you're watching live now with me, good evening, could you share what it is you do in your business in terms of offline? And what results are you getting back from being offline, from the time you're spending offline? How are you actually measuring the impact that you're making offline? This is really, really important, because I think a lot of us spend a lot of time, and I do like that word a lot. I even use it a lot in my emails. But many of us spend a substantial amount of time. Let's just diversify my vocabulary. Many of us spend a substantial amount of time offline, particularly at events. We're exhibiting, we're displaying, we're networking, we're showing up, we're doing all the pictures with all the celebs, we're going to the workshops, we're going to the seminars. But what have we got to show for it? Now, I'm not saying that going to events and networking and going to events and taking pictures with celebs isn't going to help you, because for visibility, it's great. But if you don't have a kind of plan or a process in terms of follow-up, even in terms of the events you select to exhibit at, or the events you agree to speak at, then you may not see the return on the investment of your time invested and your money invested, the fuel in your car, the staff you've got to pay to man your stall. All of these things need to be showing a return on investment. So when I talk about ROI, that's what I mean. Anything you do in marketing, there should be a return, okay? Quite simply. I don't want anyone in my community, and then certainly if you've taken the time to watch tonight's live, I don't want you to be one of those people who are thinking that, I just need to go to 6 events a month and then give out my business card, do my elevator pitch, my 30-second elevator pitch like the guru told me, then do a few videos, then jump on TikTok, then open a TikTok. It can go on and on and on, but ultimately you need to see that you are getting results from your activities. So I want you to think about that. What results are you getting back? Because time is being wasted. And I hate to be the one to break it to you, but a lot of us are giving out free samples. We're not capturing the data on who ate the sample, who sniffed the perfume, who took the complimentary gift, who downloaded the ebook. There's no follow-up. So we're giving away things, we're offering free samples, and time is being wasted doing that. The time it takes you to create that candle, the time it takes you to create that little snack, the time it takes to create that piece of cake and slice it up. Are you actually retaining information in terms of data with permission from the people that have eaten, sniffed, tasted your samples? And a lot of us also spend a lot of time doing design. Listen, let's be honest. A lot of us spend way too much time on design and there's nothing to show for it. Like, we can spend hours on Canva or hours creating content, But when you actually look behind the scenes at your stats, there's nothing to show. There's actually nothing to show in terms of, how many people clicked, how many people viewed, how many people downloaded. So that ebook you've done, what's happened with it? The content you curated for that carousel, what kind of engagement did you get? All of these things are quite important when it comes to evaluating the success of your activities that you're doing offline. And it goes beyond design. I mean, picking up the phone to call someone versus going into a shop and visiting someone face to face, all of that is time. All of that is time. Okay. And if you think about even how much you spend on print, brochures, magazines, business cards, so many people that I speak to have printed materials, collateral, and they don't even know, if I ask them where they've distributed it, there's no log of where they've sent it. There's no sheet to say where it's been sent or who's received it, where it's been mailed. And in terms of business cards, there's zero follow-up process for anyone that's taken the business card. And the flyers, well, let's be honest, some of them are still sitting underneath the desk or in the cupboard because they haven't been used, because there's no kind of strategy in place. So we are wasting time. And I want you to think about on day 3, with this being offline, whether or not you've got the right blend, the right mix for what you're doing, and whether or not you feel that what you're doing is working. Because online can work by itself. It absolutely can. Online can work, but you've got to make sure that what you're doing is yielding results, and you're not going to get results straight away. So, earlier on I was talking about, taking the photo with the celeb or going along to a few events. Yes, that's all great. And actually, you may not get a response immediately. That celebrity or that person you took a photo with, they may actually say to you in, a quarter's time, like 3 months' time, great meeting you. I remember you saying that you do decorating. Let's have a conversation. So relationships needs to be nurtured, okay? And you also need to nurture relationships online as well. So think about how you're doing that. Have you got a process for that? Because if you've got an inefficient marketing mix, if you take somebody from online to offline or from offline to online, you meet someone at an event and they say to you, oh yeah, can I get your details? Can I speak to you again? And you're like, yeah, you can. Here's my information. You give them your information, and then what happens? Do you go back to them? Have you got a customer relationship management tool to speak to them? What happens? How do you nurture conversations? How do you go back to them to see if they needed information, if they wanted a call, if they perhaps had questions? What's the follow-up for your offline activities? What are you saying to people to help them to understand? Just last week I spoke to a brilliant lady who works for an organization, and she was saying that, V, I speak to people, I tell them about this package that I offer. They love it. They love my warmth. They love my energy. She said, but V, when I go back to them and I speak to them, they tell me that they bought the package of someone else. And I'm like, eh? What do you mean? She said, yeah, they tell me that they've bought the package of someone else. And I immediately gave her a few tips on what she could do to make sure that she's collecting information on the people that she is speaking to and that she's got a follow-up. And it's not about being pushy. Let's be clear. It's not about being pushy. It's not about being over the top. If someone has expressed an interest, right, to find out what you do, then you should be making sure that you are following up as a result of them being interested. It makes sense, right? So think about what you're doing in terms of people that you speak to, appointments that you book, emails that you respond to, speaking engagements that you go to, events that you exhibit at. What process do you have in place? What are you doing to make sure that you build relationships and nurture conversations? Because if you don't have a way to retain information on who took the brochure or who you spoke to about the package, as was the case with this lovely lady, then how on earth would you expect them to come back to you? How do they know that they need to come back to you? Do they know that you work on commission? Do they know that that lead is worth a certain amount of money to you? So you've spent 20 minutes to an hour speaking to someone about a package, and then they go off and book with someone else. Why is that? Because perhaps you've not given them the right call to action. Because you've not stressed to them how important it is for you to know how they found the call, or for you to, understand whether or not they had any questions. So that going back, that following up is important, because it means that people actually feel safe with you and they feel like they can trust you enough to come back to you and ask you questions. Right, hopefully that helps someone. Tips to save budget when you're working offline. When you're working offline, if you're working with me anyway, it's not a good idea to print lots. One, because you want to test creative. You want to know what works. Like, I just recently finished working with a CEO, and although she has a massive organization, one of the things that I said to her is, listen, for what you're doing, you don't need to print lots. Think about the numbers of people that you get that come into your office, and then think about how many people you might want to give leaflets to. And when I say give, I mean strategically give. So when we're printing, we're thinking about, how can we print less? What can we do to make sure we're not overspending on print? Yeah. And what's our budget for printing? So you remember on day one, we spoke about budget for printing. We need to be thinking strategically when it comes to budget management. All right. So get your budget in mind before you start running off and printing anything. Secondly, if you are going to be getting speaking gigs, I say speaking gigs, think about where you're showing up for speaking engagements. So if you are going to speak somewhere and you're not getting paid, why aren't you getting paid, first of all? What's the benefit to you? There's got to be mutual benefits. But you've got to think about also securing speaking engagements as well. Yeah? You've got to make sure you are taking the time to research quality events, especially if being offline is something you enjoy. I know of many people that actually love being offline because they're those touchy-feely people in the most polite and professional way. They like to get out, they like to meet people, they're in their element when they're speaking to people offline. So maybe that's you. Maybe you're listening now and you're thinking, V's got a point here. Maybe I don't need to be doing so much offline. And so if that is you, what I would say is think about the types of events you want to attend. Go onto platforms like Eventbrite or Blocko or Shubs or, Ticket Tailor. Go onto different websites. There are lots, and I'm not endorsing any of those platforms. Please do your checks. Those are platforms. They're not necessarily what I would say marketing platforms, but they are ticket listing and event listing websites. So maybe have a look at some of those and get a feel for what's out there before you jump into speaking engagements and you jump into, signing up for exhibiting. Check out what's out there and make sure that it makes sense for you and your brand to be a part of it. Okay? And then also find a way to capture leads offline. Some of you aren't doing this at all. So online, you might have your ebook. Your ebook might go to your landing page. Your landing page is where you basically collect information with people's permission. You get them to opt in. They sign up to your newsletter. You get them to opt in. They get that swipe file. You get them to opt in to book an appointment. And when they opt in, you've got their data. Okay, so capturing leads online is just as important as offline. And if you go to events this summer, or if you go to events full stop, you need to have a way to capture leads. Like, I have spoken already this year to quite a few people who say, yeah, I went to the event, but I didn't actually have time. I didn't have time to create that thing I needed to capture the names and addresses. But I spoke to a lot of people, V, and I'm like, really? Now, I know for some of you who are new to events, it's not going to be possible to have all your ducks in a row. But this is why I give the opportunity for people to work with me for short bursts of time, like a 4-week sprint, which is my current offer. And in those 4 weeks, you get to work with me and you get to improve and review what you're doing so that you get better results. And all the gaps in your marketing are unveiled. And together we create a plan of action that you can implement in your own time, working at your own pace, so you get the best results. Now, if that sounds good to you, get in touch with me because there are only limited spaces remaining. What I'm doing this week is 5 days of complimentary videos to help you, whether you choose to be on my 4-week sprint or not. It's the Marketing Momentum Club, and it's ideal for you if you're someone who resonates with what I'm sharing this week. Because a lot of us are spending a lot of time offline, and a lot of us are spending very little time offline and spending a lot of time online with no offline tactics in place, and we're not seeing the results. And we're wondering why. And that blend that I referred to earlier, that mix of having ideas and information and tactics and approaches that involve online and offline, that will be your sweet spot. So you want to think about what you can do online and offline. And what I'm going to suggest you actually do is think about how you can work smarter. So plan ahead. The events that are coming up. August is the next month. Depending on when you watch this, August is next month. Yeah? So you want to think about what you're doing in August if you don't already know. And let me ask you this question. in terms of your online and offline activities, what could you do differently between now and the end of September to get you better results? What could you do? One thing might be that you plan ahead and you research the event. The other thing could be that you start to repurpose and reuse information that you've got online, offline, in radio interviews, at speaking engagements. There are lots of different ways that, if you want to make sure that you've actually got a hold of what you're doing and you can manage your time effectively, there are lots of different ways that you can actually improve your branding and marketing simply by reusing and repurposing what's already there. All right, so I want you to think about what you're doing in terms of reusing and recycling, but also make sure that you've considered how you can create content that's relevant to your offers and create content that is actually helping you to plan in advance. Yeah, relatable content that's relevant and timely. Okay, and then the final thing is, if you're going to be working offline, have a think about who you could collaborate with. Who could you collaborate with? If you're thinking about working strategically, one of the biggest ways that you could work strategically is to concentrate on quick wins. And some of those quick wins could be that you actually have collaborative partners. Could be that you actually think about, who you could work with that's going to help you where there's mutually beneficial arrangements, right? And that could be a number of different things, whether you share a mailing list or whether you deliver an event together and you share the cost. There are many ways you can work smarter offline. All right, so I want you to make some notes on that if that's something that resonates with you. And then finally, I want to say to you, because I didn't want this to be too long, you have to think about the activities that are working. Many of you have got activities that are working offline. Do more of that. Because some of you are spending a lot of time online and exhausting yourself, and you actually have offline activities that are working. Do more of what's working, do less of what is not. Okay? And think about the activities that you can do or expand on to attract even more clients to your brand. Complete that review. Think about the amount of time and money that you spent on your offline marketing. Are you using notice boards? Are you going to events? Are you having referrals? Have you got like a loyalty card? What have you got for offline? Are you running competitions at events? Are you doing giveaways? Are you doing free samples? What are you spending when it comes to offline? Have a think about that and actually consider your marketing budget. Because if you remember at the start of this session, what I shared was you have to think about working smarter and not harder. And a budget, which although it sounds really like official and daunting, having a budget is basically you telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Right? Credit to Dave Ramsey for that one. Having a budget is you saying, right, I'm going to have £45 a week for my marketing and I'm going to spend it on X, Y, and Z. And so I want you to think about what you're doing when it comes to budgeting, what you're doing when it comes to time management and budget management, resource management, what you're doing when it comes to offline marketing. And the rest of the week, we're going to cover 2 other really key topics. Tomorrow will be online marketing, which is definitely a favorite every time I do the branding and marketing reset. And if you're within my 30-day program or the 4-week sprint, then of course you're going to get in-depth training on these topics from me. This is literally just a teaser for people that might be considering how they can improve their branding and marketing. And of course, if you are somebody that wants to improve your branding and marketing and you are looking for a coach, reach out to me. I can help you. My 1,000+ reviews online will share how I work with clients and the results that they get and the transformation they receive. But what you might want to do is just think in your mind about what you're going to do differently before the end of the year. Right now, at the time of me recording this particular session, we have gone 202 days into 2026, right? So without pressure, have a think about what that means for you in terms of your business, okay? Have a think about how that looks for you in terms of results, in terms of goals. And I'm actually going to log off now, but I'm going to log off by saying, if you're watching this and you're thinking, you know, I do need some help, I'm not sure where to get started, or I do need some help, but maybe V could help me with something specifically. Maybe I need one-to-one. Maybe I do need that 4-week sprint. I can work at my own pace. I can join the replays. I can learn about social media and how to convert with new content. I can get my ducks in a row. I can find out about email marketing, right? If that's you, grab a seat for the 4-week sprint that we're going to do on the Marketing Momentum Club. It's for you if you're ready, right? It's not for you, with respect. It's not for you if you're someone who isn't necessarily ready for investing in their business, isn't necessarily ready for taking action, doesn't necessarily want to be receptive to new ways of working. If you're stuck in your ways and you're not really someone that likes recommendations, and you know quite a lot already, you've done it all, you've tried this, it didn't work, you don't want to try anything new, my 4-week sprint will not be for you. I love working with business owners who love to get results, who are focused. And that's not to say you're going to be under any pressure when you work with me, but it is to say that if you do choose to work with me, we are going to be focused on you getting results. We are going to give you a bespoke plan so that you are mindful of what we're working on and that you're focused, working with clarity. Okay? So when I ask you the question, as I wrap up, I can see some of you on YouTube. Let me know where you're watching from. And don't forget to like the video if you've enjoyed the session or something's resonated with you, let me know. You can also DM me too on the Instagram platform or via my website if there's something you want to share privately. But how are we doing offline? That's the question. Yeah, my name's V Roberts of Insight to Marketing. Thank you so much for joining this evening. I've really enjoyed this session. I hope you have too. And inside the group, there is access to lots of different trainings, but the focus, if you want to focus on the social media and the content and the email and the video, that is what the focus will be for the 4-week sprint. And we are going to go deep, and you can work at your own pace and you'll have access to the replays. Take care, and I shall speak to you soon. All right, bye for now.